It's a nice day and it's snowing. It's never settled that long because it's the end of winter. But it's nice to look out at it and just kind of don't look at any one spot and just have all those little things moving around in your wider field of vision. It's quite therapeutic. And while doing that, contemplate what is happening and what might happen with Bitcoin. So welcome to the BitCoin Roadshow. There's a path and there's a road. So yeah, there's a high likelihood that the lows that people are waiting for and expecting, they might get very disappointed. I was saying this to a friend of mine the other day. We might get disappointed because I'm waiting to buy more if it goes down that low. But I'm not counting on it. But for people who are counting on it, just beware. I told another friend in England the other day, actually, to a young guy, dollar cost average in, because you never know when it's going to go to. And luckily he did that around about 400 and... Shane, if you're watching this, tell me when it was. I think it was 4,600 US dollars. I can't remember what it is in pounds. But anyway, and it was glad he'd done so, or else he would have lost out at those prices, you see. DCA is your friend. So, the things that might prevent Bitcoin going this low is, one is the cash stimulus that Americans are pumping in right now. And if that cash stimulus can tide the stock market and other things along for the next, let's say, 3 months, what would end up happening is you would still have some of the currency issues going on, but you would have more stability. So it would be a smoother transition that would benefit people rather than institutions for moving into cryptocurrencies, because there wouldn't be so much chaos, because the banks and the big institutions, they require chaos to rob. The bigger the chaos, the bigger the robbery, right? And that's where you get the massive lows down to 3,000 US dollars or even lower. And everyone panics. The weak hands let go of their Bitcoin. They might have bought it for 10 grand. They're flopping and groping, as the guy from Cryptoversity says. I love that one. And then boom, they let go of their Bitcoin for a third or a half of what they bought it for. And then next thing you know, when the banks are ready, bazaar, they pounce and they start buying it for 6,000 euros and 7,000 euros and 8,000 euros. They're all OTCing in billions of pounds in different days. And by the time that the common man catches up, forget it. He's like, oh, 20 grand, I can't pay that. Until he's looking at 100 grand. And he's thinking, oh, maybe I'll buy a little bit with my last 20 grand. Maybe I'll buy 0.001 of a Bitcoin. And that's what will happen. So I would say even at this range right now, you should still be DCAing the dollar cost average the whole time, because you just do not know if it's going to go down. I wouldn't say spend your whole wad. It would be a bummer if it went down to 1,000 and 2,000, but remember, never look a gift horse in the mouth. These prices that we're at right now are cheap. It's almost infinite how Bitcoin can fill up the now 94 trillion, I think it is, of world money supply. Might even be toward 95 trillion. And that could all be a transfer of wealth into a new monetary class, right? So this thing can go a long way. This can go all the way down to 1 Satoshi for $1 if it wanted to. It can go all the way down to one, what's it called, millibit on the Litecoin network. Because it could fill up the top 100 currencies, could all be not tokens on CoinMarketCap, but actual mineable currencies. The top 100 of them could all end up going crazy. This is why, a friend of mine the other day on this channel was saying about Zilliqa, and it's something that I do own and I didn't even mention. So have a look at these mineable currencies like Cardano, Zilliqa, Komodo. There's a whole bunch of them out there in the top 100. You may as well throw a spear. If you're going to throw a spear anytime, as They Call Me Dan used to say, what's his name again? I can't remember his last name. I can't remember his last name, but he used to have a channel called They Call Me Dan, a pretty good channel, nice guy. And he used to always say, setting lures, throwing spears. You've got to, setting lures basically is where you just, let's say the price of, I don't know, let's say the price of Digibyte is 70 Satoshis. and the price hasn't gone to 60 before in its life, and you just throw a spear at 60, someone can make a mistake and fill that order, or someone just wants to dump a lot because you're buying a lot of that order, and they go, you know what, for the sake of a few percentage, I'd rather fill my whole order and sell out now. And that is that's what he means by setting lures, right? Throwing spears basically it's just selecting a whole bunch of things. You never know what's going to work out. Oh, look at that! I threw $100 at this project and it's gone 100x. This is the time to do that. I'm not saying don't buy Bitcoin. Always buy Bitcoin. What I'm saying is with the 10%, you might want to throw some spears and set some lures, right? This is the time. It could still go lower. You're taking a risk. I think that once Bitcoin does resurge, you will have a rapidly following altcoin resurgence that will start with Ethereum first. So you may as well throw some Ethereum spears, especially look, it was down at $100 the other day. Damn, when's that going to happen again? If ever. It might do. You know, if this virus gets a little bit worse in some countries, but what it's looking like is that curve of panic. You might be able to get it down to 3 months in some countries. Okay, China has the ability, because it's a communist country, because it's a kind of communist capitalist hybrid country, they're able to do authoritarian things that other countries can't get away with. A friend of mine in London was talking about this morning. You know, people would be suing you if you tried to. I saw a guy in Italy on a video he basically got tripped up by the cop middle of the street and put on his face and handcuffed because he wouldn't self-isolate. You know, I mean, that's Italy, which is still a socialist capitalist country in a kind of still a kind of liberal environment, not as liberal as the UK. But, you know, in the UK, that you would never get away with that. But these times are coming, because this is not just a wake-up call as far as how pampered you are. One article I read on RT.com, I can't remember the word they used, but they were talking about pampered peoples and how you can get away with stuff in Russia and even Italy, and you can't get away with it in the UK. And it's going to be a big wake-up call, because it's going to make them go through a massive economic hit. And they're going to have to get over their little social justice warrior, tea time, keyboard warrior kind of attitude, and wake up and harden up and stop being such pussies. Because, the other thing is this might have been done on purpose to actually get rid of that PC culture, because the governments can't be bothered with it, because they just want to step on our foot. They're wondering to themselves, where did this all come from? How did we allow this to happen? You know, bring back the good old days, and we could put our foot on their neck and we could squash it, and I wouldn't say anything. Oh, out for the days. You know what I mean? You can imagine the government in England thinking that, right? How did we let it get to this where we can't even steal from our own people anymore? Where our royals can't even fiddle with the children of the peasants and get away with it? What's happening to this world? That's what they're thinking, right? So they want to bring these times back. Cue Boris Johnson, if you like, the Winston Churchill of our times, who usher in the authoritarianism, and before you know it, you'll be singing their tune. So buy Bitcoin so you're unenslaved from their little systems that they have. Then you're a free floating person outside their cash system, their currency system, which would be digitized currency. You can see it's coming. They're already seeing a lot of countries you can't use cash. Well, Bitcoin is digital cash. Bitcoin is also digital gold. Now, okay, it's not the fastest form of digital cash out there, but it's working pretty fast now. We've got a hash rate that is I think 100 times faster than what it was in the peak of 2017. Minimum 10 times faster, but I think it's somewhere between 30 and 100. So you've got a massive mining farm coming on board in Texas soon. It's only going to get better and better from here. Now, you might ask yourself, what's going to happen with mining? Oh, what if currency collapses? And then, as I was talking about with one of my colleagues the other day, people can't pay their bills to us. Well, when that comes, they'll think, well, what is the function? The function of this nuclear power station is just, we can't just turn it off. We may as well give people the power. The function of this, the government will simply order things to remain open. If you look after certain, so the government services will be fine. Let's say education. We look after a lot of education stuff, for example, in our systems. So, that'll be fine because the government will say, make it so. We'll make sure you get electricity to stay on. We'll make sure you get, I don't know. You can see what Trump's doing already, printing. I'm glad I can say this and not be attacked by a bunch of Republicans or Tories in the UK, because it's Trump who's talking universal basic income, right? You have to bring something out. You have to make a solution or else the world stops. And at the end of the day, since the snow has melted and the emperor's new clothes have been seen, we all know the system's fake. I mean, you have to be a fucking idiot not to know the system's fake, right? They print money at will, but it does keep the world going round. And if that's all it takes to make people do things, then why not just keep on playing the tune rather than make things collapse until we can actually usher in or transition to a better form of money, cue BitCoin. It's all there. The solutions are right in front of us. The banks know it is. It's just they don't want to use the money of the free. But they will if they have to. At the end of the day, they've stolen all they have from using the old monetary system, so it's not like they haven't had it good. They've been able to print this money for hundreds of years in the UK, in Portugal, in Rome. They're able to print these currencies at no cost of their own in some cases, not in the Roman Empire, but some stages of the British Empire could when they went off the silver standard, and the same as the American fractional reserve system also. Especially when they went off the gold standard, but also before that. They're looking for a new paradigm. Now that might be digitized SDRs, but I can guarantee you would not get people of the world looking at the fuck up that these guys have created in their banking systems. People would not just move happily to SDRs and go, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. Let them just print a new currency. Let us screw us out of our savings and then move to this new one just after fucking us out of our pension and our house and whatever else they're going to do in this wealth transfer that is coming up. And what will end up happening is people will say, you know what? I think this Bitcoin, this Digibyte, this Litecoin, this Dash, this Monero, I think it does look like a better option. Because remember, all these currencies can fill the void. And no one will be looking towards Libra, Facebook coins. So we can't even trust them to keep our fucking page and profile open without seeing a comment. People automatically link this stuff together with what's happening in China and the social credit score. Oh, he jaywalked. That's it. Right. Don't let him use the airplanes for the next few days or next few months. Or that woman there just threw her cigarette in the ground, and that guy there just spat some chewing gum. Let's take away his rights to go to the cinema. So people, although they are horrendously fucking stupid, if there's even just one person with a brain and free independent thought within a group of 10, every 10 people, that's enough to wake society up. So they will not go down that path of the digital SDR, the digital dollar, and just carry on playing the tune as before. But they will play the tune just to stop their children going hungry and to stop the whole world flopping and groping. They will, they'll sing along, but at the same time, they'll be not as stupid as they were before. Well, who knows? They'll most likely start making some plans in parallel. Wake the fuck up, as I've said in so many videos. You've got the chance to now. It looks like we're going to get a few lifelines. I don't know if it's a good idea what America's doing, bucking the curve instead of doing the self-isolation, deciding to go back to work on the 8th of April. I think it might be a little bit short-sighted, but hey, who knows? Maybe Trump sees something. Maybe this is a plan by some shadowy figures behind the curtain that are even on a higher level than him, because we already know the permanent CIA and the permanent FBI, well, they're not losing their job in 4 years' time, or at the end of the start of this election cycle. Sorry, when the new person is sworn in, should I say. And it's the same everywhere else. Boris Johnson, he'll come and he'll go, but the head of the MI6 will still be there until they decide to leave. The senior judges in the Crown Court will still be there until those fucking old bastards decide to retire, in which case most of them are senile. We've seen this time and time again in New Zealand and Australia, some of the worst, most horrendous judgments that you've had in those countries, and in Canada, some of the most crazy liberal, libtard judgments that have set the most horrendous, horrible people free have come from these effectively senile grandpas who just won't fuck off and retire in their 90s because they're egomaniacs. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. It's just, yeah, I'll do one last thing actually. I mentioned before that DeFi could suffer in the future, so projects, I mentioned Chainlink, and let me sort that one out. Not just because I'm a Chainlink holder, I also hold Synthetics and a whole bunch of other DeFi stuff, right? But what I mean is, if Finance 1.0 collapses, Chainlink will still be around. People still require things to link blockchains to use oracles, right? They still require functionality outside the linkage of Finance 2.0 and 1.0, right? So all I said was the price would flounder. So I just want people to understand that. You know, a whole bunch of those other projects. Some of them are to do with fiat currencies only. So, for example, you may have a lot of problems with Make or Die. You may have a lot of problems with True USD and Tether, especially Tether, right? If the US dollar collapses, and especially if you're talking tether towards euro or tether towards New Zealand dollar or any other currency out there that has a tether, because those fiat currencies will collapse before the US dollar. Just make a mental note of this. But the simple fact that the US dollar is the petrodollar, that's the only reason why the US dollar has not collapsed yet after 88 or 90 years, whatever it's been around for. It's the oldest surviving currency ever, and that's because you know, there's many iterations of coins. Like in Britain, they went through shillings and they moved to the newer pound sterling, you know. So that's why I say it's the oldest currency. But it's linked to the dollar. They can print all they want, and no matter if people lose confidence, they still have to buy it, right? People don't have to buy the pound. They don't have to buy the euro and the ruble and the rupee and the yuan and the yen and the peseta and all these other ones. And that is why these currencies will collapse long before. Those of you who live in Australia or know much about Australia will have noticed when Bitcoin went down by 45% the other day, Australians couldn't take advantage of it. Why? Because their currency went down by 45% against the American dollar. So they didn't even get to reap the rewards of that. That will happen more and more. If you are holding money in your account, you might want to think there's another reason to move into cryptocurrencies or into even another fiat currency like the USD or like the euro for a while. Those will last longer. Those will take longer to collapse, but they will still collapse eventually. Yeah, that's the only advice I can give. Well, put it this way. Whether, you know, I don't know why people protect them from giving advice when the worst people giving advice are these financial channels, because my advice is usually pretty on point. You look back through my videos, you can see it. But I'm saying that's what I would do. So don't see it as advice. See it as, well, that's what I would do. That's what I've done. And historically, I usually make a lot better calls than what these financial channels do on MSNBC or any channel in the UK or Europe. A lot of them give you bum steers. They don't come back and say they're sorry. They don't come back and say, we just lost you heaps of money there. But that's a way to protect yourself from it, is diversify. And better, if you're going to diversify, you may as well do it into something that's easy to use. I can tell you firsthand, gold, silver, and platinum are a pain in the ass. But maybe if you buy. Oh, actually, let me cover that one quickly. The reason why gold and silver are going down, especially silver, is because people are dumping paper silver. You try pick up some silver right now in the bullion form. It's going to be quite difficult. Why? Because the price of silver they know is lower than what silver's worth. The reason is because real silver and fake silver, which is on paper, there's about 10 times or 100 times as much of that than there is real silver. So once those paper certificates, those paper silver bonds, whatever you call them, once they all collapse, the real silver will go shooting up in value, because it only makes up a fraction of what the real silver is in the world, is the actual solid silver there is, not these certificates, which are effectively derivatives of gold and silver, this paper note, promissory notes, you know. Same thing's true with gold, but more so with silver. People are trading it so it's more liquid. So if you want to get something that's more liquid in that field, go for silver stocks. When I say silver stocks, I'm talking about stocks in silver mining companies. There's a few good ones out there. There's a few good channels. This is where people like Peter Schiff might be worth listening to. You know, he's definitely not worth listening to about crypto. That's for sure. Yeah, I will leave it at there now. Thank you very much. Bye.